What if I told you that the reason your life feels so loud isn't because of the world, but because you've forgotten how to hear yourself? You wake up tired. You reach for your phone before your feet hit the floor. You answer emails while brushing your teeth. You scroll, reply, react, perform, all before you've even asked yourself how you feel today. And when the noise finally fades, there's this strange, echoing emptiness, like something important has gone missing. Not success, not love, you. This video is not about motivation. It's not about productivity hacks or 10 ways to reinvent your morning routine. It's about something far more real and far more difficult: coming home to yourself. For the next few minutes, I'm inviting you to explore a blueprint, a 90-day path rooted in Stoic philosophy, but lived in the messiness of modern life. No need to be perfect. No need to transform overnight. Just one honest moment, repeated over time, until it becomes your way of being. You'll hear a story of someone who did it. You'll see what changes and what doesn't. And most importantly, you'll discover how to begin from exactly where you are. So if a part of you has been waiting quietly for permission to return, stay with me, because this might be the moment that brings you back. 1. Stop living for others. Reclaim your mind. There comes a moment, and if you've lived long enough, you've felt it when everything in your life looks fine on the outside, but somehow you feel completely unknown to yourself. It's not a loud breakdown. It's not some crisis you can name. It's quieter than that, subtler. It's the strange ache of realizing you've built your entire identity around being seen, admired, accepted, and you have no idea who you are when no one's watching. You wake up. You reach for your phone before your eyes are fully open. You scroll through faces, through opinions, through other people's lives until yours becomes too quiet to hear. You dress for the day, not for comfort, not even for confidence, but for perception. You say things in a way that makes sense to the room, not necessarily to your soul. And in between all of that, you keep checking for likes, for replies, for glances, for proof that you're real because someone else sees you. This doesn't make you fake. It makes you exhausted. Because at some point, without ever intending to, you stopped acting from the inside out and started shaping yourself to match the reflection in someone else's eyes. And when your identity becomes dependent on feedback, validation isn't a compliment, it's oxygen. You don't post to share, you post to stay afloat. You don't speak to express, you speak to protect. You don't choose what's right, you choose what won't get questioned. Slowly, almost beautifully, you disappear, but only from yourself. That's what nobody warns you about. Living for others isn't just draining, it's erasure. A silent deletion of your truest voice, made one small compromise at a time. You don't even realize it's happening until the room clears, the likes stop, and there's no noise left to cover the fact that you've forgotten how to be alone with yourself. So pause, just for a moment, and ask yourself, when was the last time you felt fully real in your own skin? When was the last time you said something not to be heard, but simply because it was true? Can you remember what your own presence feels like, stripped of performance? This is where change begins. Not with a productivity hack or a digital detox or a new morning routine. It begins with the uncomfortable truth that the version of you the world loves most might not be the version you're meant to live as. And letting go of that version, it might cost you approval, but it will give you peace. That's the trade Stoicism demands of you. Lose the image, reclaim the soul. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Discourses 1.2. Not admired, not respected, not understood, content to look like you're doing it wrong because sometimes doing it right won't look right to those who are still asleep. Let them misunderstand you. Let them think you've changed. Let them call you cold, quiet, withdrawn, selfish. They don't see the war you're fighting, the one to be whole again. They don't see how loud the silence is when you finally stop performing and start listening. The hardest part about reclaiming your mind isn't pushing others away. It's recognizing how far you've pushed yourself to the edge of your own life. You weren't built to be a projection. You were meant to be a presence. But presence requires honesty, and honesty means you have to admit how many of your choices weren't really yours, how many of your words were edits, how many of your dreams were borrowed, and how many days you've lived trying to impress people who've already forgotten what you said yesterday. You don't have to start over. You just have to start inward. Turn off the noise. Not forever, just long enough to remember what it feels like to not be performing. Sit somewhere uncomfortable. Leave your phone in the other room. Ask yourself what you truly want. Not what will look good on paper. Not what you think will get applauded. Just what your bones long for when no one's listening. You may not get a clear answer right away, but the willingness to ask is already the way back. Tonight, maybe don't play the podcast. Don't scroll. Don't fill the quiet. Just sit on the edge of your bed, feet on the floor, and let yourself arrive fully, right here, in this moment, as you are. No script, no audience. You've lived long enough inside their gaze. It's time to return to your own. And it won't be easy, but it will be true. And that truth, even in its raw, shaky, imperfect form, is where your real life begins again. Not with applause, not with perfection, but with presence. 2. You don't need more time. You need more urgency. How many things have you postponed until you stopped believing you'd ever do them? You told yourself you'd start when you had more time, more clarity, more motivation, when things felt right, when the timing was better, when you weren't so tired, when the year began, when the month turned, when Monday came. But here you are 3 years later. Same plan, same talk, same feeling in your chest. When you realize nothing moved. You didn't get worse. You just didn't start. And somewhere along the way, you stopped expecting that you ever would. There's a man I know, quiet, intelligent, full of good intentions. He's been talking about writing a book for as long as I've known him. 10 years, maybe more. He's always outlining ideas, researching themes, waiting for the right headspace. Every time I see him, he's got a new notebook, a better pen, a different title, but not a single chapter written. And I'm not judging him, because I've been him. So have you. Different dreams, same delay. Whether it's getting fit, quitting the job that drains you, leaving the relationship you outgrew, or finally becoming the version of yourself you imagine. When you close your eyes, we all have something we say we'll do. Eventually. But eventually is a myth. A polite way to bury what scares us under the illusion that we're not done, just not ready. But the truth is, most of the time, we're not waiting for the right time. We're waiting for the fear to go away, for the doubt to disappear, for the perfect version of us to arrive and take over. And until then, we keep practicing in our minds, rehearsing life instead of living it. But the Stoics would ask, how much longer? Epictetus said in Discourses, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? That quote isn't soft. It's not motivational. It's a confrontation. It puts the weight back on you, not your schedule, not your stress, not your circumstances, you. Because deep down, you already know what you want, and you know what it will take. But you keep waiting for someone or something to hand you permission. What if you stopped waiting? What if the best version of you never arrives, not polished, not perfect, but shows up rough, bruised, and ready to try anyway? What if the time is never right? And that's the point. Because urgency isn't panic, it isn't rushing, it's clarity. It's knowing that the clock doesn't owe you anything, and if you want a different life, you start now. Not when it's easy, not when you feel like it, but now, precisely because it's hard. That's what makes it count. So here's something small, but not easy. Write down one thing, just one that you've delayed too long. The thing you keep circling but never confronting. The truth you've known but couldn't look straight in the eye. And before midnight tonight, take one step toward it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't even have to be impressive. Just real. Just yours. Make the call. Cancel the subscription. Take the cold shower. Send the application. Delete the app. Walk out the door. Whatever it is, start the fire. Because action burns fear. And even the smallest motion in the direction of who you want to be is already a form of becoming. Time doesn't wait, but the future will always reward those who dare to begin. And you're not late. You're right on time if you move now. So, which path will you choose? 3. Don't just act. Plan like a warrior. Most people aren't lost because they don't work hard enough. They're lost because they never stopped long enough to ask where they're going. They confuse action with direction, movement with progress, pressure with purpose. So they run fast, relentlessly, even admirably, but in circles. Their calendar is full, their mind is busy, and yet deep down, something feels aimless, off, empty. Because they're always doing, but rarely deciding. Always acting, but never aligning. David was like that. Each week, he'd start strong. A new notebook, a new system, color-coded goals and daily rituals stacked from 6 a.m. to midnight. He was determined, enthusiastic, and exhausted by Thursday. By Friday, everything collapsed again. He blamed his discipline, his willpower, his personality. But the truth was simpler, quieter, and far more uncomfortable. He never stopped to ask who he was actually trying to become, and because he didn't know, he tried to become everything, which, of course, meant nothing held. We live in a culture that glorifies action. Hustle, grind, just start. But Stoicism doesn't begin with action. It begins with clarity. It asks a deeper question, one most men avoid, because it's harder than any habit, more confronting than any failure. What kind of man do you want to be? Not what you want to do, not what you want to have, but who at your most honest you want to become. There's a passage in Epictetus's Discourses tucked quietly into a chapter that doesn't scream for attention. It says, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." No noise, no performance. Just a simple but brutal order of operations. Identity first, action second, not the other way around. But most of us live backwards. We act without a center. We collect to-do lists like trophies, hoping that by doing enough, we'll stumble into meaning. And when it doesn't come, we blame the schedule, the system, the season. Rarely do we look inward and ask if the actions we're taking actually belong to the life we want or to a life we think we're supposed to chase. So slow down. Before you set more goals, before you add more pressure, before you convince yourself you need a new routine, ask something better. When you close your eyes at night and imagine the man you respect most, what is it about him that holds your attention? Is it how much he earns, how he dresses, how efficient his morning routine is? Or is it something quieter, the way he listens, the calm in his decisions, the way he moves without rushing and speaks without needing to prove anything? Start there, not with the noise, but with the center. Write one sentence. I want to become a man who, and finish it truthfully. Not to impress, not to inspire, just to say something honest. Then close the book. And instead of writing 10 goals, choose 2 actions that this version of you would do not in theory but today. Maybe it's something as small as stretching for 10 minutes before picking up your phone, or drinking water before caffeine, or texting someone first without waiting. It doesn't matter how minor it looks. What matters is that it comes from identity, not anxiety. Let those 2 actions be your only focus for the first 7 days of your 90-day journey. There's power in this approach, not dramatic power, quiet power. You begin to realize that becoming isn't about doing more, it's about choosing less, but choosing better. You start to feel momentum, not because you're faster, but because you're finally facing one direction. And when you slip, you return not with shame, but with precision, because you know where you're going. You're not throwing effort into the wind, you're aiming it. Most men don't need more motivation. They need a map and the courage to stop pretending they're lost because life is hard, when in fact, they've just been moving without a compass. They haven't failed. They just haven't asked. Effort without direction isn't strength. It's noise. It wears you down, makes you reactive, scatters your attention across 1,000 things that don't matter, and leaves you wondering why your soul feels so far behind your schedule. But once you've found direction, once you've said clearly to yourself who you want to be, the noise begins to fade. And the silence that returns is not emptiness, it's focus, it's presence. It's the beginning of alignment. And alignment always makes something else inevitable. The need to let go, because once you're sure where you're going, you'll start to feel everything that no longer fits, and you'll know it's time to put it down. 4. Becoming starts with letting go. If you're truly committing to change your life in 90 days, this part matters more than any habit you'll build or goal you'll chase. Because no real change sticks not for long unless you first let go of who you're no longer meant to be. We often think transformation is about adding more structure, more discipline, more action. But the real beginning, it's subtraction. Quiet, invisible, necessary. And it often starts with one simple realization. Maybe I'm not stuck. Maybe I'm just holding on to things I should have released long ago. There's a strange kind of comfort in the familiar, even when it hurts us, even when it's outdated. We keep certain habits, not because they help, but because they explain who we've been. We stay attached to identities that no longer reflect who we want to become, simply because they've been with us long enough to feel like home. But you cannot step into a new self if you're dragging the old one behind you. The road forward asks for lightness, and lightness requires letting go. Luke didn't consider himself unwell. He was functioning, responsible, social, drinking a few nights a week, nothing wild. But over time, he noticed how those evenings bled into slower mornings. His creativity, once sharp and playful, turned sluggish. The camera gathered dust, the spark dulled. Then one day, he tried something small. He said no to a drink. Just once. Then again. A week passed. Then 2. Slowly, his mornings returned. His work deepened. What he thought was burnout turned out to be heaviness he never questioned until he stopped carrying it. Clara's version was quieter. No drinking, just routine. She worked hard, gave all she had, and came home tired, collapsing into another night of scrolling through shows that didn't inspire her, didn't challenge her, just numbed the fatigue. Until one night, she paused, turned the screen off, lit a candle, sat a day with the discomfort of silence. That week, she picked up a pen again, not because she had to, but because something dormant in her stirred awake. Her creativity hadn't died. It had just been buried under habits that felt safe but led nowhere. A man is not weighed down by the burden of the future, but by the memory of the past and his unwillingness to let it go. Seneca. And that's where most people trip on their 90-day journey, not because they're lazy, not because they lack a plan, but because they never stopped to shed the weight they've been dragging behind them, beliefs, routines, reflexes, all born from a version of themselves they no longer wish to live from. So, before you ask, what should I do next? Ask this instead. What do I need to stop doing, stop believing, stop protecting to make space for something real? You don't need to let go of everything. Just one thing, the thing you already know, that reflex you excuse, that habit you defend, that comfort that costs you your clarity. Write it down. One line. No performance, just honesty. Then for the next 7 days, step away from it. Don't replace it. Don't rush to fill the silence. Just give yourself space to listen to what returns when the noise fades. This is the inner work that allows outer change to happen. This is why letting go is not a side note in your journey, it's the foundation. Because if you're still dragging yesterday, tomorrow will never feel light enough to lift. And no, it won't always feel good. Letting go rarely does. It feels like loss, like confusion, like something is missing. But maybe what's missing is just weight you've finally stopped carrying. The lighter you become, the more you'll move. Not in haste, but in alignment. And when the path gets bumpy, and it will, what keeps you going won't be motivation. It won't be perfection. It will be presence. And presence begins when you're no longer holding what's already past. 5. You don't have to be perfect, just be consistent. I messed up yesterday, so what? I showed up today. It's not a quote you'll find in a book, but it might be one of the most powerful mantras you'll ever need, especially here, in the middle of your 90-day journey. Because if there's one virtue that quietly separates those who change from those who give up, it's not motivation, not talent. It's this: consistency. We glorify perfection, we crave it, but it's consistency, quiet, unsexy, daily action that rewires a life. And yet, it's also the part most people abandon. The first few weeks feel alive. You see change. You feel strong. But then, as always, something slips. A skipped workout, a bad meal, a missed day of journaling, and suddenly shame creeps in. That old voice, you broke the streak, might as well stop. That's what happened to Mark. He was on day 34. For over a month, he had done everything right, waking up early, eating clean, writing, staying focused. But one stressful afternoon, with no time to cook, he pulled into a fast food drive-through. Burgers, fries, soda. That night, he looked at the empty bag on his passenger seat and felt it like a failure, as if that one decision made the entire month worthless. Next day, he skipped his workout. The day after, he slept in. Within a week, the rhythm was gone. But what really ended Mark's momentum wasn't fast food. It was his belief that progress must be perfect, or it doesn't count. That's not just false. It's fatal. The Stoics would never ask for flawlessness. They knew better. They didn't preach. They practiced. They didn't aim to appear wise. They aimed to live wisely. In the words of Epictetus, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Don't try to impress others with what you say you value. Show it especially in how you respond when things don't go as planned. True discipline isn't about never missing. It's about never quitting because you missed. And that's why consistency is so hard. Because it asks you to return again and again, without applause, without perfection, without proof that it's working yet. But hear this clearly. If you keep returning, you are succeeding. Even if you stumble, even if you're tired, even if today is just 60%, because change isn't built in streaks, it's built in returns. So maybe you slipped yesterday, maybe you fell off for a week, maybe you haven't started at all. It doesn't matter. What matters is the next step. And if that step happens today, not perfectly, but honestly, you're back on track. Consistency isn't glamorous. It doesn't post well on social media, but it is sacred. It is how you honor your future self, not just with dreams, but with proof. And proof comes slowly, quietly, one repetition at a time. So this week, don't aim to be perfect. Aim to return every day, especially when it feels small, especially when you feel behind. Because being consistent is harder than being intense. It doesn't look impressive, but it builds the kind of strength that doesn't break when life does. And if right now you feel overwhelmed, like the journey is still too big, maybe the answer isn't to try harder. Maybe it's to think smaller. Because mountains aren't moved by leaps. They're moved by footsteps. And all that's ever been asked of you is the next one. 6. 1 small step can change everything. How long have you been waiting for clarity when all you really needed was movement? That question isn't meant to provoke you. It's meant to quietly surface something you've carried for a long time. You're not lazy. You're not lost. You're simply standing at the edge of something new. And you don't know where to begin. You've read the books, watched the talks, written out your goals, underlined the quotes, but every time you get close to starting, a voice creeps in. What if I choose the wrong thing? What if I waste time? What if I don't start the right way? So you pause, you plan, you rearrange, you wait for the fog to lift. But it doesn't. It thickens. You're not paralyzed because you don't care. You're paralyzed because you care too much. You want to start right. You want it to be meaningful. You want to feel certain. But Stoicism doesn't ask whether you feel ready. It asks whether you're willing to move anyway. Seneca once wrote in a letter to his friend Lucilius, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." He didn't say wait until it's all clear. He didn't say act when you're confident. He said live now, even while unsure, even when you don't know what the outcome will be. I once knew someone who lived this tension. His name was Ryan. Every new year, he'd buy a fresh notebook, download the latest planning app, and map out every goal down to the week. He had vision boards, habit trackers, and a bookshelf full of motivation. He wasn't unmotivated, he was meticulous. But somehow, nothing ever started. Not because he didn't want it, but because he didn't know where to start. And the fear of beginning in the wrong place kept him stuck in the planning phase, year after year. Then one night, without ceremony or perfection, Ryan opened a journal and wrote 3 sentences. That was it. 3 honest, awkward, unrehearsed lines about how he felt that day. Not for social media, not for self-improvement, just to feel real. It didn't fix his life, but it broke the silence. And sometimes that's all we need. A single act that reminds us we're no longer rehearsing life, we're living it. That's the paradox of change. Clarity doesn't precede action, it's born from it. So maybe today isn't the day you design the perfect system. Maybe it's not the day you map out the next 90. Maybe today is the day you simply act. Not perfectly, not publicly, just honestly. Write something. Fold the blanket you left on the couch. Call someone you've been avoiding. Take a short walk with no phone. Drink a glass of water before your coffee. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's yours. Small doesn't mean meaningless. It means manageable. And when it's real, even the smallest step is enough to wake something up in you. Something that's been waiting for movement, not permission. You're not stuck. You're just standing still, and one quiet move, one breath, one word, one choice can shift the weight of an entire life. There is no perfect place to begin. There is only here. There is no ideal version of you that will suddenly arrive to get things right. There's only the you that is tired, unsure, and still willing. And that is enough. Take one small step. Let it be awkward. Let it be invisible. Let it be real. And let that be how your new life begins. 7. Brittany Polat's story. Have you ever heard of Brittany Polat? She's a modern Stoic scholar, co-author of journals like A Stoic and a PhD in linguistics and psychology. She's written essays on virtue, emotions, and moral clarity. But before all of that, she was something else too. Exhausted, a mother of 3, a woman trying to hold it all together, work, parenting, expectations, while slowly drifting away from herself. Not in a dramatic breakdown, but in the quiet way most people do, by surviving each day on autopilot, showing up for everyone except themselves. She wasn't falling apart. She was fading. One night, after putting her kids to bed, she sat at the kitchen table, opened a blank notebook, and wrote one sentence: "I don't know where I went." That was day 1. She didn't launch a massive life overhaul, no social media challenge, no bold declarations. Just a quiet decision to write every morning for 90 days, like a Stoic, not to fix herself, not to perform, but to return. So she did. Through the noise, the fatigue, the endless interruptions, she wrote. Some days just a few lines, some days a flood. Some mornings she wrote with a baby on her lap. Other days she only had 2 minutes. But the pages stacked and something shifted. She stopped snapping at her kids. She started recognizing her triggers and choosing how to respond. Her anxiety softened. Her mornings gained clarity. She began to feel grounded again, not in control of the world, but in control of herself. By day 90, she hadn't become someone new. She had simply come home to the person she had always been beneath the noise. Brittany didn't change the world, but she changed how she stood in it. And that changed everything. So, if you've been waiting for motivation, for a better season, for a perfect plan, maybe you don't need any of that. Maybe you just need what she had: a notebook, a key promise, and one honest moment with yourself. 8. Begin quietly, but begin fully. If you're ready, here's the map. Not to chase perfection, not to impress anyone, but to return to the quiet strength already inside you. This isn't a challenge. It's a commitment, a way back to yourself, one deliberate day at a time. You don't need to do everything. You just need to begin and keep beginning again and again until it becomes who you are. The first 30 days are about clearing space, not just in your schedule, but in your mind. This is where you stop running on autopilot. You wake up 10 minutes earlier. You sit without your phone. You write 3 lines in a journal before the world gets loud. It doesn't have to be profound. It just has to be yours. One small ritual done daily to remind yourself, I am here. Then comes the next 30 days where you rebuild. You choose 1 or 2 simple actions aligned with who you want to become. Nothing dramatic. You might take a short walk after lunch instead of scrolling. You might pause before answering that email you normally rush through. You might speak one truth each day instead of editing yourself to please the room. These aren't habits to track, they're expressions of identity, repeated not to achieve something, but to become someone. And finally, the last 30 days are about holding steady. Life won't get quieter, but you will. You begin to notice your reactions, the way frustration rises, the way you rush to defend yourself, the way old patterns whisper. And instead of being pulled into the storm, you stay, you breathe, you choose. You're no longer reacting, you're responding. That's the heart of Stoicism. Not coldness, not detachment, but clarity. Throughout these 90 days, there will be days you miss, days you forget, days you feel like it's not working. That's fine, because this isn't about perfection, it's about return. The practice is not in never slipping, it's in noticing that you've slipped and gently, quietly, coming back. You don't need to change your life in 90 days. You just need to live one honest moment at a time for 90 days in a row, and by the end, you won't be transformed into someone else. You'll simply become more of who you truly are. Clear, steady, real. So begin quietly, but begin fully. So here we are, 90 days, one blueprint, and the quiet power of choosing to live, not on impulse, but with intention. That's the gift of Stoicism. It doesn't promise an easier life. It offers you a stronger mind. It doesn't remove the chaos. It teaches you how to stand still inside it. If this video gave you something, even just a pause, a breath, a reminder that you're still here, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Not for numbers, but for the kind of presence we're building together, one honest video at a time. We'd love to hear your story too. Have you started your 90-day journey? What was your day one like? What did you let go of? And what returned in its place? Let us know in the comments. Not to impress, but to connect. Because the journey of becoming isn't meant to be walked alone. And if you're still hesitating, still standing at the edge, wondering if this is for you, remember this. You don't need the perfect mood or the right moment. You just need the courage to begin. As Epictetus said, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? So ask yourself, what will day one look like if it starts today?